because I could not have ever imagined I would go through any of what I went through. So you just, even though that's not normal, obviously it's not a normal journey, but even if you are in the US or anywhere, it's just, you just never know how things will go. So just plan for the unexpected, I say.
Hello, everyone. I am very excited because we have another fantastic guest this week, Dr. Jennifer Jeboda. So I'm just going to let you tell us all about your wonderful self and your journey to medicine.
Okay, so I was born and raised in London, England. And so I'll start from high school because that's a little far back. But I went to, so in middle school, I was in boarding school in Nigeria. So I was there for about 2 years. And then I came to the US for high school. And I was in another boarding school for another 4 years. And so I stayed in Georgia. The boarding school was in Georgia. So I stayed in Georgia, and I went to college and graduated from Georgia State University. And then, so I did not go into medical school right out of college. I took about a 4-year gap. So in that gap, I worked a lot of jobs, both medically and non-medical related jobs. And I also did a year at Morehouse School of Medicine for their master's program. And so I applied to some US schools, and it wasn't a lot. I just thought I was going to get in somewhere because I had some connections somewhere, but that did not happen. So I ended up not getting anywhere in the US, and they told me to try again the next year. And I was like, I don't want to wait anymore. So I decided to apply to Ross University School of Medicine, and I got in 2017. And that's where all the craziness started. So the school was originally located in Dominica. And so I got there 3 weeks before, so I got there a week before school started. And 3 weeks into school, a Hurricane Maria came. And so it was Hurricane Irma came first. And it literally went by us and completely missed the island. And then 2 weeks later, Hurricane Maria came and literally it destroyed the island that we were on. So we had to evacuate, and the time spent on the island was another story. It's a whole nother story on its own. But we finally evacuated, and we were out of school for about a week or a week and a half. I can't really remember how long. But they let us know that, hey, we have an option for you guys. You can either decide to wait another semester before starting school again, or you could finish off this semester that started on a cruise ship. So I was like, I didn't want to wait. So I was like, let me do this cruise ship. And so I did it. So we lived on a cruise ship for a few months for the rest of the semester. And that, again, is a whole nother story on its own. That was interesting. And then after the cruise ship, we were temporarily relocated to Tennessee in the United States. And so we stayed there for about a year. And then we finally got our school to be permanently located somewhere else. Because originally we were in Dominica, but now we are in Barbados. So I spent 6 months in Barbados. And so that was the end of my 2-year mark. Because for Ross University, you spend 2 years on the island, 2 years in the United States. So after I left Barbados, I actually did my 3rd year rotations in London, United States, and London, UK. So and that's actually where I'm from. So I live 20 minutes from my house. So it was great. I was able to see my family and friends again. And just to be in a whole nother healthcare system, different from the US, it was just interesting to be a part of. So I did that for a year. And then for my 4th year, I came back to the US, and I was everywhere. I was in every state. I was in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois. I went to Connecticut. I was also in Maryland for a bit. Florida for a good bit too. So I kind of bounced around everywhere for my 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
And now then I finally graduated. Graduated a little early, August 2022, but I walked the stage just last month. So, May. So yes, thank you very much. And yes, so now I'm here. I am currently in North Carolina, and I plan on going into anesthesia. I'm here for a transitional year. So I'll be applying again this year for 2024 for anesthesia. And actually, my quick story about that is I applied for 2023 match. I only got like one interview, so I did not match, but I soaped, and then I soaped into this program. So everything worked out. So I'm here now, and I'm trying for anesthesia.
That is an amazing story. And for the fans who have been kind of sticking with us throughout the past 2 or so years where I've been hosting, I know you guys are probably used to my little formula where I kind of send out pre-made questions and it kind of goes through a different way. But there are so many key points that you just pointed out that I would love to dive a little deeper into. Number one, I love that you mentioned that you were open for exploration. You were open to kind of take some time, like some gap years in between going into medical school, because there are a lot of pre-meds who are listening to this who kind of think you got to follow that strict route of this and this and this and this, and that is not true. Sometimes you find out a lot about yourself if you take that break, or you can gain more things to kind of put on your application or help yourself grow as a person. What are your thoughts on if a student is kind of torn between taking some gap years?
I say do it. I took 4 years, and I think that's a long time. I don't think you have to take that long, 1 or 2 years. Get other experiences. You can volunteer. You can work in the medical field. You can do something outside the medical field, even if it's just to catch up with bills and making sure you're okay before you start medical school. I say do it, especially if you want to strengthen your application.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned about your experience of going to a school in the Caribbean. We have a lot of students who may be a little bit nervous about the match process and things coming in because, of course, it's so competitive with a lot of different factors that go into the match. And you've been successful, but you had quite a journey, like from going to this new place and then having the hurricanes hit and then being dislocated in multiple places, and then even doing a semester at sea. Like, how is that like at sea?
Yeah, that was an experience. I mean, it was different. We spent a majority of the time at sea, but we also docked a lot so we could explore the island. It was at Saint Kitts and Nevis, so I got to explore the island a little. So it wasn't as bad as it sounds. It was kind of fun, but stressful, and because the rooms were really small, and it was an experience. I have a lot of pictures and videos of that time. So,
Were you guys assigned like a roommate?
so yeah, originally we had like 4 people to one room, and like cruise ship rooms are,
Yeah.
they have different sizes, but the majority of them were really small, like bunk beds. So it was a crazy experience. So I had to actually leave the room that I was in because it was too crowded for me. So I just went to another room with just one other person. So
That's a very interesting experience. And then from there, you went and you did some more training in your home, like the UK and London. And as we all know, the US healthcare system is a lot different from there. What would you say are the biggest differences since you've trained in both systems?
obviously the free healthcare, like healthcare is free there, and it's not in the United States, and so that was the biggest difference. And then obviously it has this trickle down effect from that. So the patients that basically everyone can be seen in the US, whether in the UK, whether you're homeless or not. I mean, obviously they'll see them here in the US too, but you don't have to pay for it. And so the only issue with that in the UK is that there are long wait lists. But also, I mean, I feel like it's the same thing here too. But that's the major thing, was the healthcare. And because it was free, they were also not very quickly to test everything. Like, they try to figure out what was wrong with the patient before throwing tests out, because it costs money, and it's taxpayers' money at hand. So though I think that was a major difference between the UK and the US. And also the systems, like they use, I forget what it's called right now, but they use different systems. So instead of Fahrenheit, we use Celsius. And there's just a whole bunch more. And I actually had to unlearn those things coming to the US. So having to go back to the UK and relearn it and then unlearn it again for the US, my brain is so confused. But those are the major differences between the UK and the US.
I can definitely see that. Of course, we know we're still working on trying to find a way to get some kind of universal coverage here in the US. And then for the students out there who may not have enter medical school yet, and I'm sure you guys know, like, we don't really use the metric system. So there is that
That's
big.
it.
Although in healthcare, there are a lot of things, especially in like pediatrics and things like that, where we do use like the 38 degrees and we'll use Celsius or we'll use certain meters to kind of do doses. But we kind of remix it and kind of use a bit of both, whereas
Yeah.
they stick to their game. So I
Mhm.
definitely think that that will be a very interesting thing for you to use as you apply for your categorical position, which now you're entering transitional year, which is so amazing, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So you're also an artist, and this is actually how I came across you, I believe, on LinkedIn. And I was just seeing you post about some of your art and things, and I thought that was so cool. Have you been able to tie your art into medicine?
Absolutely. So before I started medical school, I did a variety of things I did a variety of things. So I did drawings, paintings, sculptures, ceramics, embroidery. But when I got to medical school, I was very limited in my time. So I had to focus everything on something that made sense. So I focused it on anatomy. So I actually, and during medical school, probably at the end of second year, I created a medical art business around that. So I actually create and sell anatomy worksheets, quizzes, and coloring pages for students and educators around the world. So that's what I've been doing. I also do a lot of different things on the side, like I create logos and stuff like that. But more majority is anatomy. So I picked anatomy specifically because I actually had trouble with anatomy, and I just think it's something that people should know. And I try to just even non-medical people like children and just people outside of the medical field. I think we should all know about our bodies. So that's kind of the reason why I went that route. And I create them to be vibrant and eye-catching and colorful so that it's not just boring to learn from.
Yes.
So that's why I went that route. So yeah, I definitely connected medicine and art, and it's helped me tremendously. So
That's awesome. Are those some of your images behind you?
yes, actually, yep. There's some of there. I do digital artwork too. So
They're so beautiful, and it
thank
definitely
you.
showcases those listeners out there who may have different talents and gifts. It's okay to do both, and it's okay to monetize them too. Because if you need help with something and you're seeing that other people may be looking for these resources, why not share your gifts and share those types of things? So, is there any
Exactly.
place where people or listeners can reach out to you to obtain some of the art? Like, is it being sold anywhere?
Yeah. So I have a personal page and a business page. My business page is Jen Medar with two N's. And so Jen Medar LLC, that's actually the name of the business. I am on Etsy and also have my own website at www.genmedart.com. But the Etsy website, you can probably just type in Jen Medar and find me there too.
That's awesome. So definitely look up Gen Med Art for all of those people who may be interested in diving a little more deeply into anatomy and making it fun, doing some of those quizzes. I know that a lot of people who are pre-med are probably taking some anatomy courses or some physiology courses. And then of course, when you go to medical school, you'll definitely have to dive even deeper into it. So it'd be good to kind of get some refreshers.
Absolutely.
Now we've talked about how you kind of dove into the entrepreneurship road, but this podcast is geared towards pre-meds and med students. So now that you are entering your transitional year, a lot of times people can reflect back on, like, things that you've experienced. I know you had a very adventurous medical school career journey. What is the one thing that you wish that you had known when you had started medical school? Like, aside from the hurricane aspect and things like that.
Well, actually related to the hurricane, my thing I would say is you have a plan and you have a journey and you have a plan and you have a destination and you never know how it's gonna go. So I would say, I mean, you can't plan for every single thing, but you can make goals and achieve them, but you just never know how it's gonna go. So prepare for the unexpected, I would say. You just never, because I could not have ever imagined I would go through any of what I went through. So you just, even though that's not normal, obviously it's not a normal journey, but even if you are in the US or anywhere, it's just, you just never know how things would go. So just plan for the unexpected, I say, and leave room for other things.
I love that advice because it can go in terms of many things. Like one, it plan for the unexpected. You were so flexible with being able to move, to try to figure out what's best in terms of you navigating your career journey to get to your ultimate goal. And sometimes I think people are so rigid in, I want to do it this way, or I want to do it on this timeline, or I want this right now, or where you may actually miss out on certain opportunities or different things that you're supposed to kind of encounter in your journey. So just being open to that and being open to exploration and being open to, even when you're applying to different fields, like figuring out what you want to do, figuring out how to get there, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I think that being open is definitely the way to go. And hopefully you guys have learned something from this.
Exactly.
My next and final question is, what is one thing that you would change about the medical education system? There are a lot of different hoops that students must jump through in terms of kind of taking all the standardized exams, kind of working to figure out their placement. Even the whole match process is kind of like sports draft where you kind of are matched in things and your choice isn't necessarily your own all the times. And so there's definitely room for improvement in the medical education system. What is something that you would like to change about the system?
There's quite a few things, but I think number one would be cost. I think medical school should be free.
Mm-hmm.
I think school should be free in general, but especially medical school, or at least way cheaper than it is, because we come out with debt. So I think cost is just definitely one thing that I would change. Make it free.
I couldn't agree more. The medical education cost is astronomical, and people are entering the field in order to help save other people's lives in the futures, whether or not people who are coming in are wealthy or underserved. We are dedicating years of our life to dedicate to others, and there needs to be some type of acknowledgement for that, compensation, loan forgiveness. There are some programs out there, but a lot of them are predatory. Some of them put you in the environments in which are not feasible for care and for yourself and for wellness. And then people leave sometimes having medical debt. I think the average is about $250,000, but a lot of people leave with $400,000, $600,000 in debt. And a lot of people may believe that physicians are rolling in the dough, but the salaries don't match up and the math doesn't math. So we definitely need to look into more ways in which we can show gratitude for people who are serving to take care of others, especially in their most vulnerable times. We go to work when everything else is closed. We actually lose years off of our life because of all of the night shifts and things. They show that physicians die earlier. And I'm going on a rant right now, but the government needs to figure out a way. Like we had the COVID pandemic, the CARES Act didn't acknowledge doctors. It does acknowledge some of the other healthcare professionals, but there needs to be loan forgiveness. Biden, if you're listening to this, forgive our loans.
Please, oh my goodness. Please, we need it.
Yes, and on top of that, people who are minorities and from backgrounds who may not be from a lot of money and things like that, they have debt on top of debt on top of debt, and we're already systemically oppressed. So it's not only adding to the social determinants of health, where a lot of times these people go and serve underserved communities where they've come from, or for people who look like them or people they want to serve, but it's adding into that economic whirlwind of disaster where you may be getting a white collar job or something like that, but you're not able to help your future advance as much as you could with your family and things like that because you're kind of stuck in that debt. But for the students who are listening, there are ways to work on that. But I just wanted to bring a light to it so that we can work to advocate and change that for the future that comes after us.
absolutely.
So it's been so wonderful hearing about your journey. I'll just give you an opportunity to say goodbye to our listeners and let them know again how they can reach out to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm across all social platforms. My personal page is Creative Dr. Jen with 2 N's, DRJENN, Creative Dr. Jen. And my business page is Jen Med Art across all platforms also.
Thank you for that. So for all of the listeners out there, check those pages out. Definitely check out Jen Med Art and see if you want to purchase any of the art for anatomy for a friend who may be graduating and entering the medical field. You might want to give them a wonderful gift. Or if you just need a refresher, there are so many ways that you could utilize this. And for all of those who have been listeners to The Prospective Doctor, please click that subscribe button, tell your friends about this, and then reach out to us and let us know if there are any topics that you want us to cover, any guests that you want us to invite. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. DOCTOR, the letter D, GRAM, Dr. G Graham. Or you can reach out to Med School Coach at their Instagram at Med School Coach. I'll see you again next week with another wonderful guest. Thanks. Bye.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward medical school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.